Good evening, and thank you for all for attending. My name is Natalie Sayre, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from any interruptions to the debate, as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. Joining us this evening is Mr. Tom Collins with the Citizens Clean Elections Commission. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this evening's debate. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The Clean Elections Act was created to allow campaigns to be more issue-oriented and less negative. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who participate voluntarily. The candidates agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules, which include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, as well as participating in commission debates. The candidates invited to participate tonight are in contested primaries. Candidates in uncontested primaries are not included in the debate process. For tonight's debate, questions have been prepared by Clean Elections based on a voter survey, as well as questions that have been submitted by the voters through the Clean Elections smartphone app. However, we encourage live audience questions first. If you have questions, please print them clearly on the note card given to you when you walked in and hold it up. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. We screen questions for clarity, to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for 1 hour, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. There is an independent timer who will see that all of the candidates have their allotted time to answer questions and will tell them when their time is up. Tonight's debate includes 1-minute opening statements, a lightning round. The first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes to answer audience questions. Each candidate will answer the same audience question, and we will rotate which candidate responds first. After all of the candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will receive an additional 30 seconds. The second half will allow a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer, and 1 minute closing statements. If you have questions for a specific candidate, please include the candidate's name on the note card. It will be considered in the second half of the debate. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with what's being said. Tonight's participants are Mr. Doug Coleman, Republican, State Representative for District Number 16, Mr. John Fillmore, Republican and a Clean Elections participant running for the State Representative of District 16, and Mr. Adam Stevens, Republican, running for the State Representative for District 16. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name for opening comments and will progress from that starting point. The closing order will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name. Mr. Coleman, will you start with the opening remarks, please?
I will. Thank you for attending tonight's debate. I want to introduce myself. I'm Doug Coleman. I was born and raised in Mesa, lived my entire adult life and worked my entire adult life in Pinal County in Apache Junction. I was a high school business and career and technical education teacher for 31 years. During that time, I also served in local government. I was on the Apache Junction City Council for 19 years. 12 of those years as the mayor. For the past 4 years, I've been able to serve the people of Legislative District 16 in the Arizona House of Representatives, and have taken my what I consider to be unique perspectives of having been a high school teacher and involved in education as well as in local government to the state capitol. And been involved in creating policy in those directions. I currently serve in the House.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore.
Hi, I am former State Representative John Fillmore, a small businessman. I'm asking for your support on my re-election. During the 2011 session, while I served on the Appropriation Committee, we fixed Arizona's $1.5 billion shortfall by eliminating responsibly $1.1 billion in spending. No tax increases, just responsible cuts. We then even cut the corporate income tax in half to stimulate recovery and jobs. Now in the years 2014 and 15, government spending has increased in Arizona by over $2.3 billion, a whopping 7.3 increase just recently. We have put thousands more of Arizona citizens on welfare, codified Obamacare, meanwhile decreasing college funding. Our representatives seem happy to just kick the can of bloated big government down the road. And meantime, they've been accepting tens of thousands of payoff donations from lobbyists for their re-elections. False conservatives with no history.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, your opening comments.
Good evening, and thank you for coming here. I am Adam Stevens, and I'm a local Arizona small business owner. And I look at our community and I think of the opportunities that we have and the opportunities we don't take advantage of. And I don't think that we're going to get to where we want to go as a state by continuing with status quo politics. This is a state and a country that was built by small business owners, by your ranchers, your farming families, people who did what they did to provide for their families, to create a better future for their children and their grandchildren. And those are the things we need to fight for. And those are the things that I hope to bring to the State House to represent this district. I think we need to focus on issues from creating a lower tax structure, deregulating a lot of our overregulated businesses, create a school choice environment in education where children's needs and parental choice are at the center of our system. And we need to also look at our need to have a modern, fully funded infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To break the ice, we will start with a quick lightning round. Please answer with one word. Mr. Fillmore, Pandora or Spotify?
Pandora.
Mr. Stevens, CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
Fox News.
And Mr. Coleman, Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
All right. At this time, we will begin a portion of the debate where each candidate will answer the same question. The first question is for Mr. Stevens, and it is this. If you were to be elected, what would be the first bill you would submit, and what would you consider your most important issue to address?
I think the first thing, coming in as a freshman representative, I think the first thing you need to be able to do is look at what direction our legislature is going to go in. I think the biggest issue that I would like to be able to tackle is our state's infrastructure needs. Specifically in our district, if you consider the fact that State Route 24 right now dead ends at Ellsworth. As it currently stands, the Department of Transportation is suggesting it's going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 years to move that highway about another 3 miles. I personally consider it incredible that it will take us longer to move a highway 3 miles than it will have taken us to win World War II. And I think that the first thing we have to do as a legislature, if we are going to move forward, is going to be to provide the necessary funding for our infrastructure so that we can get our roads built, help create local economies, which is something that our district desperately needs. And so that would be my first bill, or my first drive at least, would be what we can do to get our infrastructure up and running.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, same question.
I can tell you what my first bill was. It was to allow teachers to use their debit card to pay for their teaching certificate. Up until then, they had to pay with personal check, money order, or cashier's check. But I agree with Mr. Stevens, actually. Infrastructure and our roads, we have so much deferred maintenance costs in the state that's something that has to be addressed. We've been diverting money from the local entities, from the counties and from the municipalities by way of HERF to fund the Department of Public Safety. Those Department of Public Safety needs to come out of the general fund. The HERF funds, I believe, need to be restored to the local entities. And that's something that I've been working on, and it's something that I will continue to work on.
Thank you. I will remind the candidates in this first half they will have 2 minutes to answer. And Mr. Fillmore, same question.
Thank you. The first bill that I would drop is something that's been near and dear to me and I've been talking about for years. What I would like to do is to cut school districts. We have 227 school districts. We only have 15 counties. Can you imagine the amount of monies that we would save if we could get rid of about 100 school districts, get rid of the redundancy, duplication, and the waste in administration, and funnel that money to the teachers and the classroom? I think that we wouldn't have even had to deal with Proposition 123 had we been able to get this finalized a couple of years ago. We're not talking 10 or $15 million, but hundreds of $millions flowing into the classroom. I am focused on education. I'm a small businessman that has been on here in the Valley and it's operated for over 30 years. I don't have a formal education beyond high school, but I understand the importance of education, and I see it with the kids that I've hired and I bring in and I try and mentor. You know, what we need to do is we need to ensure that all of our kids have to do a class in basic math so that they understand how to do a loan amortization prior to their graduation, things of that nature. Had we done that, we probably wouldn't have had the debacle that we had with everybody getting in over their heads. I would like to see the colleges get rid of some of the extra social electives that they required so our kids can graduate without millions, or not millions, hundreds or thousands of dollars of debt. And I'm focused on accomplishing things. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Stevens, you have an additional 30 seconds to respond to the same question.
I think that along with our infrastructure needs, we do need to focus on education. It's one of the most important things because when you have a child who graduates from high school at the age of 18, they need to be able to do one of two things, and that's either enter the workforce and be a productive member of society, or they need to be ready to go on to further education in college. And right now I feel like most people that our system isn't quite doing that just yet. And so I think one of the first things we need to do is create a system where it focuses on the individual needs of the child and parental choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your question. What private sector experience do you bring that will make you a good legislator?
Private sector experience. I was the camp director for Camp Geronimo with the Boy Scouts of America. I was on the camp staff there for 32 years, and that entire time I managed departments, and then I ended by managing the entire camp. I was the camp director my last year. It's a combination of business experience in making sure that the cafeteria operated correctly, that we checked in the troops and checked them out correctly, that all the paperwork was done. We had a medical staff, which I didn't oversee the medical, but oversaw that the department as far as resources go. And then educationally, we taught the 12 points of the Scout Law and the Scout Oath and tried to adhere to those things. Other private sector experience that I've had, my father was in the citrus business, and was a partner in Consolidated Citrus Growers and was a partner in a citrus packing plant. And I worked for him for many summers as a salesman, selling culls and fruit to the general public. I think it gave me some personal skills that I have tried to use and respect that I've tried to use as a member of the legislature.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, same question.
Thank you. I've been working my whole life in the private sector. My father died on my 10th birthday, and I took a job selling newspapers on the corner in Boston, Massachusetts. I ran about 7 companies. My current company, which I have, is called the Weather Shacks. I've been here in the East Valley in the district for over 30 years. I've been hiring, firing, and teaching right here in our district and doing what I can for growth. I understand the private sector. I first came to Arizona in the 1970s. I opened up a company as a manufacturer's rep, going from zero to over $3.5 million in 2.5 years selling to the mass merchandisers here, the Angels, O'Malley's, companies that have gone bankrupt because of competition and regulatory practices over the last 20 years. I literally pay tens of thousands of dollars a month in taxes to the state of Arizona. I understand the pain of meeting budgets and hiring and letting kids go and doing the things that have to be done. I'm in an industry that the government is focused upon to cut carbon-based fuels. I sell fireplaces and wood stoves. 15 years ago, we had about 25 manufacturers. We only have 3 left in our country nationwide. So I understand what the private businessman goes through, and I understand the problems that he faces. There are big differences between being in the public sector and the private sector. There are big differences between being, and I am a real estate agent and a broker. I have my own company. I've been a licensed broker for over 14 years. And there are big differences between things like that. And then actually cutting the paychecks for employees and listening to their problems and trying to help them, not only as an employer, but also as a friend, because that's what makes business tick. So I understand the private business sector.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens.
Yes, I grew up in a small family business, which through a lot of hard work and at times seemed like the government working against us, grew into, through our hard work, that business grew. And it was something I was very proud to be a part of. And I think that that's something that a lot of times we miss in government, is a common sense small business voice who understands at times when things get tough that you got to do more with less. And even sometimes you got to do even more with less than you thought you were going to have. And I think that experience of understanding, working with government regulators, working through a cumbersome tax structure that puts a lot of our businesses out of business and sometimes just stops people from wanting to even start a business. And that's an unfortunate thing, because we used to celebrate small business owners. That used to be what those were the people this country was built on. And those were the ideals of working hard and being able to provide for yourself. One of the other things, and one of the most important experiences, at least that I think that I've had from the business experience, from business background, is specifically having to deal with labor unions, which is something, at least from a government perspective, when you're dealing with public employee unions and you've had to deal with those negotiations, and you're dealing with pension reforms, and you're dealing with those things, unless you've actually been in that negotiating room, and you've actually had to sit across that table and say no, and walk out of the room sometimes, and come back for a meeting at a later date after cooler heads can prevail. If you've never had that experience, you're not going to learn it just because you take an oath of office to take on the job as a state representative or any other elected position. And so I think that having that experience of day in, day out in the trenches, dealing with our regulations, dealing with taxes, hiring people, having to let people go, dealing with that across the board experience is something that gives me a unique take that I think would be beneficial for the state.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your 30-second response.
I'd just like to mention I was a business teacher, and I did teach entrepreneurship, and taught my students, how to interview properly and the hazards that were out there. I might also mention that I have been endorsed by the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I've been endorsed by the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. They support my candidacy, and I'm appreciative of that, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Fillmore, we'll start. Arizona charter schools are outperforming our public schools both academically and financially. What would you do to hold our public schools more accountable to the taxpayers, parents, and students?
As a small businessman that has hired some kids, it's heart-wrenching for me. As I said, I don't have the formal education to see what is coming out of some of our public schools. And I have watched how charter schools have flourished and blossomed. That's why I first ran for office several years ago, was because I believe that the kids, I'm a product of a public education. But you know, I have a kid that works for me that just graduated from high school, did not know who Christopher Columbus was. Now I want you to think of that. A high school graduate doesn't know who Christopher Columbus was. And the reality of it is that we seem to have lost things. We have social engineering, and they want to bring transgendered kids into our schools. And I'm very forward about putting out my foot and saying, you know what, stop with the social experimentations. Let's talk about what we can do for kids. Not all of our kids are going to be brain surgeons and doctors and lawyers. Some of them, though, what we need in our society are good electricians and plumbers. And we need to do more with our G-Tech schools. That's why I talk about one of the first bills that I would drop, would ensure that all of our kids prior to graduation would understand what it takes to balance a budget and to amortize a loan, so that they understand that the mortgage that they're going to take, they could pay it off so that they could have a retirement and things of that nature. The future and the greatness of this country is built upon our kids and our ability to form it and bring them together and cement them into something we can do, something that it's been woefully short in our schools. And it's not the teacher's fault. They want to teach. It's that overburdens of administration. I believe that.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, same question.
I think the first question we have to ask is, why are the charter schools doing better? And I think one of the things that we talk about is that, and I'll use a great example, I think, to crystallize this. If you look at your public schools in Cleveland, Ohio, they're spending on average about $17,000 a year per student, and their graduation rate is somewhere around the 40-something% range of graduation. So the issue alone isn't simply funding, because our charter schools are doing a great job, and I think that both our charter and public schools have things they can learn from each other, things that work and things that don't. And one of the great insights that I think I can bring to the State House is that I am a product of school choice, having both been through private and public education. And I've seen things that can work on both sides. But I think one of the first things we talk about, when we always talk about standards, we also have to start talking about expectations. If you set the bar low for our students, they're going to hit a low mark. We need to start looking at what we're expecting, not just from our students, but from parents, which is the thing we really don't seem to want to talk about. We also have to talk about our teachers, the administrative costs, the fact that right now, after Prop 123 passed, from my understanding, we now have, I believe it was Apache Junction High School is now looking at spending almost $23,000 on a brand new marquee for the school, which I don't think really is the proper allocation of funding, and it's something that should be looked at. Is this the kind of future we want for our education system? So I believe that there are things that they can both learn from, but right now I think our charter school system is showing us that when you give parents a choice, they are putting their kids into better performing schools, because at the end of the day, that's the thing that we should all be caring about. What are our kids, like I said, when you graduate from high school at 18 years old, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to enter the workforce? Are you prepared to go on to college? If you can't meet one of those two things, then we have to say it hasn't worked.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman.
You know, I think we need to take a look at education funding in total. We have a lot of good educational choice programs. We at the state tend to fund some of them more adequately than others. I will mention that in New Orleans, after Hurricane Katrina, they went to an all-charter system. All of their schools are charters. Everybody has to pick a school. And after 10 years, that was about 13 years ago, after 10 years they did a study and they found out 4 things. The first thing they found out about why parents chose the school that they did. The first thing they found out was that proximity was the most important thing to parents. The second thing that they found out was that proximity and then after school programs. What extracurricular activities do they offer? Do they have all-day kindergarten? Who's the football coach? Because my kid plays football. That was the second reason for their choice. The third reason was for academics. They also found out a fourth thing, and that was the lower the socioeconomic status of the family, the less the academics played in their choice of where they sent their kids. We have district schools that cannot pass overrides. It creates an uneven playing field for them. We have other districts that pass them and are more affluent in their property tax. We need to look at all of that. We have a school choice program that grows automatically 20% a year, and that's the student tuition organizations. Grows automatically 20% a year. My first year over there, it was $50 million. When it first started, it was $10 million, and then now it's $62 million. Next year, it'll be $74.5 million. It grows 20% a year automatically unless something's done, and it'll be capped at $600 million. That's something that's going to have to be addressed. But nobody wants to talk about it.
Thank you. And Mr. Fillmore, your 30-second response.
Thank you. First of all, I do want to say that if you set a low mark, you will have a high rate of success. But America and Arizona is better than that, and we should not have to do that. And Arizona is also not Louisiana and New Orleans. So when we talk about public school versus charter schools are an opportunity for parents to get together. And yes, the lower income kids receive a lot less, but because that's just the nature of the thing. But the fact of the matter is, extra money does not guarantee more intelligent kids. What we need to do is get rid of that top-heavy administration. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will transition to the part of the debate where each candidate will receive a separate question with 1 minute to respond. Remember, you still may submit questions via note cards and direct them to specific candidates. Please refrain, though, from personal attacks. The first question is for Mr. Stevens. There's a curiosity as to why you might be wearing an Army button.
Curiosity? Actually, it's something I'm very proud of. My father, my grandfather, several of my cousins, many people in my family have proudly served this country for many, many years. And it's something that I wear to recognize their service and the service of the millions of other Americans throughout this country's history who have served. And when you look at what's going on today, especially in lieu of what happened last night in Dallas, there's a need for us to stand up and to salute those who are willing to put on a uniform and serve this country. So I am proud to wear this pin on my jacket and to salute those who have served.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, would you have illegals serve at least the same amount of time in prison as American citizens? And say more about your position.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Would you have illegals serve at least the same amount of time in prison as American citizens? And, depending on your answer, explain your position.
Well, I like this question better. To that note, I'd like to answer two ways to that. First of all, I will say this. I am an Army veteran. I'm an only veteran that's sitting up here at this table. I enlisted at the height of the Vietnam War, and I was glad to do so because my parents told me that that was my responsibility, and I was proud to serve America. And yes, I would hold illegal aliens, and that is something that just happened in today's, in this year's sessions. There was a bill dropped, and the gentleman to my right voted against that bill, holding the illegals accountable at the same standards as Americans, and I find out abominable that we have something like that happen. When we have illegal aliens invading our home and they are treated better than our American citizens, something is wrong. We're topsy-turvy, and it's all part of this political correctness. I won't speak of everything. I am obnoxiously forward sometimes and blunt, but I will never lie to you, and I will tell you this kind of foolishness has got to stop. Arizona and America deserves better. I believe in the greatness of America.
Thank you. So, Mr. Coleman, the question from the audience for you is, why did you change from running for supervisor in Pinal County to running again for the House?
Because Todd House was doing such a great job. It was a very difficult decision for me, and to be honest, one of the reasons why I decided to go back or try to go back to the House of Representatives was because we're finally starting to talk about things in all seriousness that I first ran for. For example, education funding in general, and some of those programs. We're starting to talk about them. Prop 123 brought it to the forefront. We're also talking about local control. And there are things that truly are of statewide concern that some cities get involved in that they shouldn't. I'll give you the minimum wage as one example, where that's a statewide concern. I can't imagine having a patchwork of minimum wage cities that are different. And so I think my experience there in helping to define what are local decisions, what are state decisions, I think is very necessary. If I have a second, which
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, our next question. With the passage of Proposition 123, how can you work with schools to ensure that money gets to teachers and to the classrooms? And how can you influence schools to stop frivolous spending and increase student outcomes?
I think we need representatives who are present at school board meetings, just as one idea. When it comes to local control, our school boards exist to make local school and education and budget decisions. And I feel like, as a representative who lives in the community, that one of the things I could best do would be to lend a voice. And if I feel like the school district is making a mistake, to stand up and say that I think they're making a mistake. There's no magic pill, because at the end of the day, unless we are going to take away the local control of the school board and take it away from them, which I don't think we're going to do, what we can do is educate and work with local voters, inform them of when the school board meetings are, to have the conservative, reasonable, free market voice there, and to let them know that as taxpayers, we don't want them wasting our money. And when Prop 123 money is supposed to go to the classrooms and to the teachers, you make sure that if a school district line items money to go somewhere that's not, that we speak up.
Mr. Fillmore, your next question. What should government do to reduce taxes instead of always raising them?
What should the government do to reduce taxes? Well, I think that, first of all, Governor Ducey, Doug Ducey, the greatest governor ever, if I may say so, is on the right track in getting rid of the income tax. Because when we start talking about taxes and income, what we need to do is not focus so much on the income of the state and the taxes and the things that our state budget, here in the state, is $9.6 billion. Overall, it's 31.2, and it has increased. We are increasing the spending. What we need to focus on is not the taxes and the amount of money coming in. I think the governor, if there was ever an error he would make, and he's the greatest governor ever, I think it's that he should focus a little bit more on the spending, because that's what we have to do. Because, the income taxes is 30.9% of the income for the state, whereas the school budget is 35% of what we spend going out. And Medicare, welfare, is even more than that.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, under what conditions should the state invest additional resources into rehabilitating those in the criminal justice system, particularly juveniles?
Particularly juveniles. I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Certainly. Under what conditions should the state invest additional resources into rehabilitating those in the criminal justice system, particularly juveniles?
I do believe that we should invest in rehabilitating criminals and giving them other options for when they get out, other than just going right back to what they were doing before they got in. I've seen it work with people who have been human trafficked and were arrested and charged with prostitution. And once they receive an education, they've been able to make other choices. especially with the juveniles, where I hold them less accountable for some of the things that they do, just because they don't see the options, they don't keep their options open, and sometimes adults take advantage of them.
Thank you. Would you like your additional second that you were trying to get the other time?
Sure. I want to just respond to what Mr. Fillmore said about Senate Bill 1377. The devil's in the details. That bill actually, and even the rules chairman or the rules attorneys said that had constitutional issues. It violated the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. I did support Mr. Mitchell's, whose wife is in the audience here, House Bill 2451, which took away the authority of the director of the Arizona Department of Corrections to release any prisoners to ICE, any prisoners. That was a common sense approach. It was needed, and I think will hold constitutional muster.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, your next question. In your opinion, what is the proper role of government?
Proper role of government? Very simple. If anyone takes the time to read the Constitution, it very, very clearly states it. Both our federal and our state constitution. I believe very much that our federal government derives its powers from the 50 states. I think that relationship has gotten way out of balance. And nowadays, the federal government treats the states as if we are just wholly owned subsidiaries of the federal government, and that's wrong. And I think that the proper role of government, very simple. Take any bill that comes up, very simple set of questions. First off, is it constitutional? Is it the proper role of government, and is it something that the government should do, or is it a private sector issue? If it's a private sector issue, it's a dead point. It's not something the government should do. I believe also, as a last point, that the primary thing that any government at any level should be interested in and should be focused on is protecting the individual freedoms and liberties and opportunities of the people that they represent.
Thank you. And Mr. Fillmore, House Bill 2219, how did you vote, or how would you have voted regarding union lawyers?
Regarding
Union lawyers.
union lawyers. I would have opposed that bill, which was supported by both of the state legislatures, I believe, this year. What that bill did, to my knowledge, is it got rid of the union, the most powerful union in the state, and it put it under the realms of the courts. But I would like to parlay off of that since I've stated my position, talk about 1377. There was a kid in Mesa, Arizona that was murdered because 1377 was not passed and enforced, and nobody did anything about it. Had that bill been passed, that little kid that got murdered by the illegal alien that got let go might still be walking around. That hits home. And when we talk about unconstitutional things, why don't we talk about things such as Senate Bill 1531, which has tried to take and is blatantly unconstitutional and allows the state to back up charter schools and things of that nature on funding, depriving public schools of local funds.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, as heroin and prescription drug overdoses continue to escalate in Arizona, what steps would you take legislatively to help combat the ongoing opioid epidemic?
Well, that's a good question. That would be my question too. This country has a drug problem. The state has a drug problem. We talk about those that bring illegal drugs into the country. If there wasn't a demand for it here, they wouldn't be bringing it. I think on a lot of these issues, we need to try to attack the demand side. And I don't know if that's done with stiffer penalties or if it's done through education. I will mention in response to his comment House Bill 2451 would have alleviated that problem that you mentioned with the illegal alien who shot the boy. In that, the director of the Department of Corrections would not have released him to ICE. And so, I mean, we can talk about whether or not we want to continue to contribute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Stevens, your next question. What can you do to have the state pay for all of juvenile services and not pass that cost on to the counties?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and it's maybe not necessarily the most attractive answer, but I think you got to sit down, obviously, with the counties and see what's going on. You have to sit down with state agencies. You have to sit down as a legislature. You have to look at the numbers. I mean, the first thing that we have to look at, obviously, is making sure that we have the system in place so that these children are in a position to where they can receive the services and the help that they need. But I really honestly think that we have to be able to bring everyone at the table and then say, how do we do that? I mean, there's not necessarily an answer that I have right off the top of my head. But one thing I have learned just from my own experiences is that if you don't have the answers, you bring people to the table who do, and then you have the wisdom to listen. And that's what I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, your next question. Why do you think so few students understand the reasons for why we fought the Revolutionary War?
Why do I think?
Why do you think so few students understand the reasons for why we fought the Revolutionary War?
Well, I think that if there are very few students that understand why we fought the Revolutionary Wars, because they haven't been taught. What's happened with political correctness over the last 50 years in our country is destroying the fiber of America. And the fact of the matter is that we need to institute into them the understanding of the greatness of this country and the free enterprise systems and what we can do, because there are no boundaries that America can do in the state of Arizona. When I hear things like statements like this country has a drug problem or this state has a drug problem, there are problems everywhere, and the thing that is required to do is someone to get hands-on is to go out there and fix them, to stop the ridiculousness that we're facing. I mean, Arizona bathrooms should be gender specific. That's a no-brainer. Our kids should understand the constitutions. That's a no-brainer. Our kids should understand that 2 + 2 = 4, not 2 + 2 + 7 is 6, and the new math.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, your next question. If elected, what steps would you take to continue diversifying Arizona's economy? And what industries and sectors would you focus on?
That also is a good question. You know, one of the things about representing District 16 is we have a lot going on. We have the apple plant, but for far too long, Arizona, I think, has relied on the building industry, like home construction. And when that tanked, it hit Arizona especially hard. We need to diversify. I would say that some of the things that we historically have been known for can rise again. I think of Resolution Copper as an example. But I also think that we need to continue following Governor Ducey's plan of attracting technology companies, retaining the companies that we have now, and creating a business-friendly climate and taxing structure so that we are attractive to. And along with that goes education, both K-12 and higher.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, your next question. Unions protect employees with seniority, and they control public school teachers. Is this why the schools underperform? And most importantly, what would you do with unions and school performance?
It's definitely a part of why they are. Having actually dealt with, labor unions, I can tell you there is a certain protection that they afford seniority that I don't agree with. I think it should be quality, not years of service, that matters. We should be looking at making sure that the teachers who are in our classrooms are the best that we can get. And if you're just there to collect a paycheck and you don't care about what kind of product you're putting out, then I believe you need to find another job. So I think that is part of it, why our education system is in the spot it's in. But I would also tell you that your school administrators are not unionized. And they've done just as good a job of doing what they are. They've done just as good a job of bringing down the system as anybody. When you look at top-heavy school budgets, and the fact that you have parents and teachers who then have to go out and spend money out of their own pocket.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, your next question. What is your perspective on the adoption of a law to allow for the purchase and use of recreational marijuana among those 21 or older in Arizona?
I oppose the legalization of marijuana, but that said, 4 years ago I dropped a bill. We are one of only 6 states where the possession of an ounce of marijuana is a felony with very, very severe penalties. And the way I looked at the law was that what we have is a law on the books that was being utilized against what I call the white bread kids, the middle class that were going to ASU. If a kid of color or a minority or a gangbanger was caught with marijuana, it was considered an add-on bill or an add-on charge and to be negotiated. But if it was a young white kid from a middle-class family going to ASU, they threatened him with the felony and that, and it's fine. The ridiculous of it. But the fact of the matter is why do we want to legalize something that is intoxicating to our citizens? Why don't we wait and see what happens in the border states? We can take California, which looks like it's going to pass it.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, what did you offer to surrogate for John McCain, and how do your values align with his?
Why did I offer to surrogate?
For John McCain. This is from the audience.
Okay. I was asked if I would attend the Mesa Republican Women's Club in his place. John McCain is well respected in Washington. I didn't come to plug him, but I think that just the very fact that he is the chairman of one of the most strategically important committees, I don't think we need to worry about any of our military bases closing while he's chair of that committee. I've worked closely with Mr. McCain's wife on human trafficking. I serve on the governor's Human Trafficking Council, which she co-chairs with Gil Ordantia. He is the director of the Arizona Department of Homeland Security. And I serve on there with prosecutors and with service providers, and have gotten to know the McCain's fairly well.
Thank you. Mr. Stevens, your next question. What is your position towards the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution?
Well, I'm a firm believer that the Second Amendment is the amendment that protects the other 26. And I'm unabashedly a lifelong member of the NRA, very proud to stand for our Second Amendment rights. People who know my own family history, one of the first questions I remember when I was a young kid, I used to ask my grandfather when my family was in Eastern Europe, why didn't we stand up and fight against the Germans when they invaded Poland? And the very first question he asked me was, with what were we going to fight? We didn't have anything to fight with. And I am fully committed as a citizen, as hopefully your next state representative, to do everything I can to make sure that future generations, that Americans will never have to look at their children or their grandchildren and say that we didn't have with what to fight.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, your next question. In general, what are your thoughts on ways the state should address the ongoing drought affecting Lake Mead and the Colorado River in order to ensure a stable water supply for future generations?
Well, first of all, I need to commend our governor, Ducey, the greatest governor ever, for vetoing a bill that was passed last year, which was House Bill 1288, which literally, after us working in the state of Arizona in this desert to establish a 100-year water control program, the legislature, in a stroke of brilliance, passed a bill that would have turned those decisions governing water over to a local developer. And you can just imagine what would happen in the state of Arizona. And I thank Governor Ducey, again, the best governor ever, for stopping that. We've given away our water rights to a lot of the Indian communities and things of that nature. But I've never focused because I come from an urban background on water and I don't have the in-depth knowledge. Some people, such as those that come out of Pinal County, like Mr. Pratt, or some of those that are better qualified to handle that.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman, what is your opinion on the amount of money the state of Arizona spends in addressing the needs of the state and its citizens?
Do we have enough? There are areas where we fall short. I think as economic development continues to improve and our tax base grows, I think that we'll do a better job. We have not been able to fund the school facilities board, for example, since 2008. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in deferred maintenance on those buildings. I've been there. I put trash cans on desks to catch rainwater. I think we allocated $13 million for emergency grants towards the school facilities. I think many of the cost shifts that have gone to local government are something that the state needs to address and bring back. And so there are areas. Would I support a tax increase? No. But I do think that as our economic development plans continue to flourish.
Mr. Stevens, what are your thoughts about requiring employers to pay both men and women the same wage for doing the same job?
I think having a private sector business background, I think one of the things that if I have two employees, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, if you're doing a good job, you pay that person. Do I have a problem with paying a man or a woman the same? Absolutely not. I've done that. I think the question becomes, are you qualified to do the job? Do you do the job well? If you're doing the right job, then you get paid for doing that job. I think that there has become a professional contingency in our politics that has made a living off of perpetuating the fact that somehow we still live in 1908, and that's just not the case. I can just go off of my own private experiences. I've never had a problem paying anybody, and I would not have a problem with that being the official state policy.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, what is your position regarding the federal government assigning control of Arizona's federal public lands to the state?
I believe the federal government should give us our lands back. The federal government took our lands from us when we were admitted to statehood. If you look at the map, if we could put a map of the United States out, you would find that all the way up into the early 1900s, if we colored it by what is owned by the states, you would notice that the eastern half of the United States is predominantly red. And if we made it purple on what is owned by the government, the western half is purple. The fact of the matter is that local control, that's we should have, is by far greater. And the Arizona state lands belong to the state of Arizona. They don't belong to the federal government. I believe that we should have them lands returned to us. We should have the ability to govern them with the BLM. That's why with some of the programs that come out of back east, we have some of the fires that we have because the federal government doesn't do the controlling or the burning that they should. I'm a firm believer in states' rights, and one of the states' rights is that this is our land.
Thank you. And Mr. Coleman, what are your thoughts on whether the government should invest more in building or expanding the border fence with Mexico?
I think that we can do that with, I don't know about an actual wall, but I think with technology and with a virtual wall, I think we can become much more secure than we are now. I do feel like the federal government is not doing their job, and it's a matter of national security.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll go to our closing statements. And Mr. Stevens, you will start with your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. And one of the things that we don't talk a lot about is one of the most important things our founding fathers established was citizen oversight of the government. And so the fact that you are here is a continuation of that process, and I'm grateful for you guys being here. I'm a small business owner who believes in common sense and conservatism. I believe in doing more with less when you can, and I believe that when we do have more money coming in, that we should be prudent and conservative with it. We should plan for rainy days ahead, and I'm asking for your support. We talk a lot about support that we have, and I've been proud to have conservative organizations like the Free Enterprise Club and the Arizona Association of Realtors support me. I'm honored to have the support of conservative leaders like Representative Eddie Farnsworth. And I ask you to stand with those and to stand with me to build a better Arizona, a more conservative Arizona, and one that can lead the country forward in job growth and private growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Fillmore, your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. My name is John Fillmore. I own a small business here. I've been here for over 30 years. I pay thousands of dollars monthly in taxes. I'm a veteran. I enlisted at the height of the Vietnam War. I was not drafted. I've served on the board of directors for over 2 chambers. I am A+ rated by the NRA. When it comes to issues of local control and things of that nature, or our borders, I've been endorsed by those in the know: Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Paul Babbew, Senator Steve Smith, Russell Pierce, former state senator. The people, when I talk about education, I have the endorsement of both county school superintendents, Mr. Covey or Joe Broussard. I have been endorsed and am supported by both of the county supervisors that are over our district. Mr. Todd House, thank you, Mr. House, as well as Mr. Chukri, who's not here, and I can't thank you. I am blunt, and I am hard-working and honest. I am not politically correct, but I get the job done. I'm not offended at being taken down for what I'm sorry.
Thank you. And Mr. Coleman, your 1-minute closing statement.
One of the things that I learned at the local level is that when you see a problem, you attack it, you solve it. At the state level, I found it to be a little bit different. In some ways, it's challenging because you have all different kinds of ideologies, even within our own caucus. But I do respect everyone there, and I believe that they respect me. I would ask for your support. I would like to return for my 3rd term. Education is a priority with me. Job creation and policies that lead to economic development are a priority with me. And I would ask for your support. I'm Doug Coleman, running for the House of Representatives.
Thank you. To our candidates, we thank you so much for participating in our forum this evening. And to our audience members, we thank you who took the time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov, where you can find information on the upcoming elections, download the Clean Elections app, and learn about the candidates running for office. A link to this video, the video of this debate, as well as other Clean Elections debates, will be posted on that site within 72 hours of a scheduled debate. Please fill out the debate evaluation form you received as you entered and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the Commission and will help improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight, and you are welcome to stay and speak directly with our candidates. Good night.